The inquiry question that I set myself for this year was what strategies can I put in place to enable Year 11 EAL students greater access to written tasks in ICT. Quite often what I find in ICT is that students' ICT capability is actually very high, but sometimes their grade falls down a little bit due to their level of literacy. I started my investigation by meeting with the EAL team to discuss some ideas and strategies about how I could better support EAL students in my lessons. I also looked at some data regarding literacy levels, and I also talked to the students to find out how I could actually help them further. One of the first things that I did, with help from the EAL team, was to actually get some resources translated. One particular task, students had to actually review an existing animation from the web. Now the way I set this up was to have the question in English, then underneath each question would be a translation. So there'd be a translation in, say, Arabic, in Portuguese, in Somali, but students had to answer the question in English. As a class, we also spent some time looking at model answers and specifically how to actually structure an answer. So what kind of words do we use to start a sentence, how to make a statement, how to describe something, how do we say if something's good or bad, and why do we think that? So we spent quite a bit of time doing that, and I think that also helped the students start to sort of get their heads around some of the written tasks. This was initially very successful. It allowed students to access the content to the lessons and also work more independently. It also led me to think about how I deliver instructions in my lessons, and so I started to create more video tutorials which would guide students through how to do certain skills and prompt them with questions about what they're doing. Using video tutorials is a great way of getting students to work more independently, but you need to make sure that you don't make them too prescriptive, otherwise you end up with 25 versions of what you've created in your video. Another benefit of using video tutorials is that it frees you up as a teacher to actually walk around the class and ask students more questions about what they're actually doing and what they're learning, rather than just running around trying to show each individual student how to do something. From carrying out this inquiry question, it's really opened my eyes to some of the barriers our students face when it comes to literacy, especially when English is not their first language. When I'm planning lessons now, it's really at the forefront of my mind. I'm thinking about how can I make sure that the content of this lesson is accessible to everybody? What resources can I make? How can I enable students to actually understand what I'm asking them to do? And how can I get them to work more independently?